I know you guys missed me last week. I know it wasn't the same. You had John, Dave. Guess what? I'm back, and they're not here tonight. I said, I'm coming back. You guys stay home. I'm going to bring James and Jay in, and hopefully Roth later. But Dave and John, I'm back. Stay home. Stay home. Now, John, feel better. Dave, I know you do 8 million things. We appreciate everything you do. I get why you're not here. Take care of what you got to take care of. Great crew, but we got some great stuff tonight. We're going to talk some NFL free agency, some Matt Stafford, March Madness if Roth comes on. My St. John's Red Storm up to number 7 of the poll. 7. The Petito Magic, MSG. I mean, I'm like living in 1985 right now. Don't tell me it's 2025. It's like watching Louis with the sweater on the sidelines. It's crazy. We were talking Final Four, me and my boy Brian, and you never know. If bracketology is right, I think we can make some noise, but we'll see. And then there's this guy, Alexander Ovechkin. If anybody watches hockey, and if you don't, he's only 13 goals away from Gretzky's record. There's a lot going on. Let's bring James in. James,
What's up, KB?
How you doing?
Feeling good, man. How you feeling?
I'm living the dream. It's Tuesday night. John, I don't know what's going on with him. He's got some sort of post Super Bowl hang up too many hurricanes or something. He'll never admit to it, but all those hurricanes he drank, I think are hitting him now. And Dave's a good guy. He's involved in so many organizations, and sometimes it takes time away from us, which is okay because he's giving back, and we appreciate that. But when that happens, we have the best people to fill in. We got James Tatum. How can we go wrong?
Seems like a good problem to have.
Exactly. Quality people all around. That's what Sideline Sports is all about. And then we got somebody named Denzel Snipes or Jay Nelson, whatever you want to call him.
Yep. I'm here. I don't know what John caught. Hopefully it wasn't what I caught about 2 weeks ago, because that almost was as bad as when I had swine flu back in 2010. Like, it was ugly. But yeah,
I think you two were giving it back and forth. I don't know what was going on with the two of you, but swapping germs in those hurricanes.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, my hurricanes turned out pretty good, and so were my hand grenades. I don't know what happened with John's. It's like somebody. If I was him, I'd file a tampering lawsuit.
Right. So let's start with some quick hits. I mean, it's been a few weeks. I think we need to be quick.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. So number 1. Will the Luka AD trade turn out to be a lopsided trade? So, James, let's start with you.
100,000%. It will be in the Lakers' favor because Anthony Davis is a good player, but he's kind of already past his peak. And I get that LeBron James is old. He's 40 years old. He's had his time. He's had his run. But Luka Doncic is going to be the Lakers' cornerstone, and LeBron James is going to pass the torch to Luka, and he's going to take the franchise. So based off what they had to give up, it wasn't much. I would think Luka would have gone for a lot more in a trade than that. So for that reason, and for the future, Lakers are running away with this trade.
All right, Jay.
I'm inclined to agree. The thing that didn't make sense the most to me was, and that added to my my tinfoil hat coming on regarding this trade. Me personally, I don't think that either team agreed to this. I think it was an NBA move for some obvious reasons, probably having to do with the NFL and maybe the ratings, but that's another conversation. Anyway, the reasoning behind it that they gave, they implanted the most cookie cutter cut and paste Jerry Jones like answer. Well, we traded him because defense wins championships, and Luka's got the whole physical problem, staying in shape, and it could lead to injuries. But you trade for a guy who's 32 years old. He's not old, but he's injury prone. So you want to avoid injuries, but you trade for a guy that has a legitimate injury history. Don't get it twisted. When he is healthy, AD is still top 10 in the NBA. But with that being said, at the end of the day, it just didn't make any sense. This was the first trade in history where two reigning all NBA players were traded mid-season. That should give you an idea as to far as how strange and out of nowhere that this was. And again, you trade away a guy, your 25-year-old who just led you to the finals, just didn't sit right with me. As far as it being lopsided, I'm inclined to think, yes, it will.
So
Well,
to me, this was the dumbest trade in the history of sports. AD, phenomenal player, one of the best in the game. He'll go down that way. But the issue will always be if you look at him the wrong way, he'll be out for 2 to 3 weeks. You know, he's had the most bizarre history of injuries for an NBA player I've ever seen. I don't understand. I don't ever wish for a guy to get injured. I don't enjoy seeing guys, not be able to play. And I'm pretty sure AD wants to be on the court, but he finds the weirdest ways to get hurt. So you traded him for, and you gave up one of the best players, arguably the number one player in the NBA. Lopsided right there alone. I don't know what Dallas was thinking. It's a shame. If I was a Dallas fan, I'd be yelling fire Nico, and Mark Cuban would be tossing me out, I'm sure. Leave the fans alone. Disgusting. What's number 2? Even when fully healthy, will the 49ers continue to regress next season? Start with you, Jay.
Let's see here. The easy answer would be no, even if Debo Samuels finds a new home. But then again, it's anybody's guess what C-Mac is going to be when he comes back fully healthy. Ayuk also was injured, took a step back. Our team's starting to figure out the 49ers. I don't know what's going on here. But also, it's not like they're in a very, very tough division. As of right now, they probably only have to worry about Seattle and the Rams. But it's not like a stacked division like the AFC West, maybe, right? It's outside of the Raiders. But they're not in a terrible division like the NFC South, neither. So I would say between Seattle giving them fits and the Rams, and we'll talk about Matt Stafford here later on, there is a chance that they could continue to regress next season. And then the one on the hot seat will be Kyle Shanahan.
James?
No, regress isn't the right word, but I think they've peaked. I think that's obvious. And Brock Purdy is a guy that you got to think about because he's going to be paid a big contract. Very soon he will. And he'll be one of the top quarterbacks paid in the league. And, is he a guy that you really trust to get you over the hump and go win the Super Bowl? Because he didn't outplay Patrick Mahomes the way that Jalen Hurts did. So paying this guy all this money, you're putting all your resources here, guys are going to be let go. They're going to lose pieces. And Debo Samuel, washed up. Christian McCaffrey, injury prone. Trent Williams, old. So you got to start to ask yourself, the 49ers window is already closed. The answer is yes. And that's what I continue to think. So they'll be all right, but they're not getting to the Super Bowl. That's not happening.
Yeah, for the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl, it would take miraculous run like the Giants did when they got there 2 times and beat the Patriots. They're not the team they were a couple of years ago. Purdy is not the guy at quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. He's a system quarterback. I'll fight with you till we're done on that. He's not the guy I want to lead my team. McCaffrey can't stay on the field. I mean, Shanahan's done a great job throughout his career finding no-name backs to fill in, like Mason, and we could go on a huge list of who he's done that with. But it's not Christian McCaffrey in his prime. Granted, they got McCaffrey for nothing basically when they got him, so it doesn't really matter. They didn't lose anything by getting him, but you would like to have the guy on your on the field. He's a big part of it. They're injury riddled. If they get healthy, are they better than the Eagles? No. Are they better than Detroit? No. Are they better than the Vikings? Possibly. You know, I don't know. I don't see them as a threat to get to the Super Bowl without some fluky things happening. All right, number 3.
Hold on, real quick. Time
No,
for
no.
a corner JB moment.
Yeah, go
Who
ahead.
would you rather have, Purdy or Stafford?
It's not even
Stafford.
close.
Okay. No,
Stafford,
because
Stafford in a second.
no, I agree because all the times that we try to get you to say that Stafford's elite and everything, and how you like.
Oh, listen, I am
No,
not a
I was
Matthew
messing with you.
Stafford fan. Not a Matthew Stafford fan. I apologize when he won the Super Bowl for talking bad about him. But, you're comparing Brock Purdy to Matthew Stafford, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I would take Stafford in a second. All right, number 3.
Number 3.
Will the Phoenix Suns miss the postseason in 2025? Jay, start with you on this one.
Oh, so looking at the Western Conference, and it's looking pretty steep. Currently, the Suns are just outside of the play-in, but I mean, this deep in the season with a losing record at 27-30, you got Kevin Durant. Um, it's tough. I mean, I know you got the Kings, you also got the Warriors as well. Unless the Kings start slipping, because I don't see Golden State not making it. I don't see Dallas not making it, at least the play-in. I think there's a fair shot that Phoenix may miss the playoffs this season.
James?
They will miss the playoffs. They're a few games from even being in the play-in. They're not even in the play-in right now. So they need other teams to lose just for them to have a chance. Even though they make the play-in, they could still be one and done, and that's it. So I don't think it's going to happen. And another thing that I want to say is Kevin Durant needs to be held responsible for what's happened since he left from Golden State. What has he really done? And he has team hopped, which everyone says LeBron team hops, yet look at the success of the teams with Kevin Durant. Look at the Brooklyn Nets. Look at the Phoenix Suns. What have they done? What have they accomplished? Nothing. So Kevin Durant, that damages his legacy, what he's done with these two organizations.
I'm just going to say Kevin who? I mean, he's not the reason for any championships. Again, we're talking about guys I dislike tonight. I don't like this already. LeBron, not on my top list. But he doesn't just go to a team and say, I'm going to join other superstars and win. Even in Miami, he was the alpha. Dwayne Wade was a superstar, but not of the same caliber as LeBron. And when you look at what Durant has done, he went to Golden State, which had Curry, Clay, and Draymond when Draymond was younger. I don't think they had the best success with him there. They won, yeah, but nothing.
They didn't
I wasn't shocked. Exactly. In Phoenix, he's done absolutely nothing. In Brooklyn was a joke. He brought his guys in. They brought Kyrie and they brought Harden. I've when he came to Brooklyn, I'm like, wow, the Nets are actually going to get over the hump. This is their chance. So disappointed in him. I mean, just a waste of space. To be a Hall of Fame player that does nothing. That's basically how I would describe him. All the talent in the world, does nothing. Can't carry a team. It was Steph's team at Golden State. That's why they won. Everywhere else he's been, can't win. And I'm not a fan. But as far as making the play-in, Dallas is 3.5 up. I think that's the team that they can possibly catch. I can see Dallas faltering down the stretch. Sacramento, possibly. They're up by 2 games over Phoenix. They're not catching Golden State. They're not catching Minnesota or anybody above that. The Clippers are tied with the Timberwolves. They're not catching them. So the two teams that they have a shot with are Dallas and Sacramento. I don't see Sacramento dropping. Dallas may be the one, but you know, I think the Dallas team wants to win though because of the whole Luka trade. You know, you put in the locker room, you take away the best guy on the team, and oh, guys, you know, your season's done. The players don't like that. They have pride, so they're going to try and win for that alone. So I think that Phoenix is going to be on the outside looking in when it's all said and done. Kevin Who, that should be his nickname. That should be a T-shirt. Make the T-shirt, Jay. Kevin Who.
Kevin who? With the my next chat. Could we bring back the meme where he's standing in the garden with my next chapter and he's wearing a Sideline sports shirt or something like that?
Right? I mean,
Sideline
send him.
Sports
You
on
know,
the
where's
back
he
of
going
your
to sign
jacket.
next? Right? He's going to go to Utah next to try win a championship. Guy just hopping from team to team. And Phoenix is the biggest disappointment ever. I mean, they have so much talent. But let's get into some other things because, you know, we could talk
All
about
right.
Kevin Durant. I could talk about that like all night because he irritates me.
All
He
right.
makes Matthew Stafford seem like my favorite player.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, you know, there's the combine going on this week, but NFL free agency is starting to kick off. There's some pretty good free agents out there. We got Sam Darnold, which, first of all, it's just shocking to think that we're talking about Sam Darnold as a big get. Because, you know, when he played in New York for the Jets, he was just a waste of space. He went to Minnesota. Don't know what happened. Maybe it's the cold weather. Maybe it's the water. You know, maybe it's the Minnesota women. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on in Minnesota. I've only been there a couple of times. But Sam Darnold was resurrected. Daniel Jones, that's your chance. You know, follow Sam Darnold's path. You got Josh Sweat, T. Higgins, Zach Braun. So let's start. Let's go around the horn here and see. So where do you see Darnold going? Do you see him staying in Minnesota, or you see him going somewhere else, Jay?
He quite possibly is the biggest enigma, in my honest opinion. Reason being is because they drafted that guy JJ McCarthy last year in the first round. Then he tears his meniscus. He gets a knee injury in the preseason, and he's out for the season. Then Darnold comes along, and shout out to Dom DeRubius on the Gauntlet crew. It was the Sam Darnold resurrection tour, you know. And now this poses, the question like, what do you do with them? Do you deal Sam Darnold and you go with who you drafted as your quarterback of the future? Or do you deal your quarterback of the future for capital and then keep Sam Darnold? But also at the same time, and not saying that this is a permanent knock or anything like that, but down the stretch, when the lights were the brightest, we saw how Sam Darnold acted with week 18 with the division on the line, and then in the postseason against the Rams, Darnold flat out disappeared. That has to get taken into consideration. I'm not saying that the guy doesn't deserve to have a job in the NFL. I'm not saying that the guy sucks as a quarterback or anything like that. And maybe it could be that next season he makes the postseason and does better. I don't know, but that will be taken into consideration. When with the division on the line, where was he? And then okay, we got a wild card. What was a 15-win, 14-win wild card? That was craziness, right? And
Insane.
disappeared against the Rams. But he had quite possibly probably his best season in the pros. So that's to get taken into consideration also. I think that what I have a feeling would happen is they're going to work something out with them, and they're going to find a way to deal JJ McCarthy.
Interesting. What about you, James?
Oh, no, I completely disagree. You don't draft a guy in the first round if you're going to move on from him after a year. J.J. McCarthy is there to stay in Minnesota. That's number one. Number two, Sam Darnold will not be back with the Minnesota Vikings. There will be other suitors. There will be other teams in the mix. One thing that I know is that the Colts are going to be in the mix for a quarterback. They are not sold on Anthony Richardson. GM Chris Ballard today at the Combine said, we're going to bring in a veteran quarterback and have a competition. So they're not comfortable with Richardson. Sam Darnold is a stereotypical guy that's been in the league. He's a veteran, but probably won't cost them a lot, and they can bring him in and keep him there with Richardson. So I think Indianapolis is the landing spot for Sam Darnold.
So I mean, when you look at Darnold, he to me this is his rookie year. He played with the Jets for so long, and then he really never got a true chance after that anywhere. Um, this to me was almost like a rookie year for him. He definitely deserves to start somewhere next year. Do I think he is the guy? Absolutely not. You know, I would love to see my Giants go after him and not draft a quarterback and somehow find a way to get Travis Hunter and wait to get into that Manning sweepstakes. You know, and you have Hunter and Neighbors at wideout. I think that's the best move for the Giants right now is to go after a quarterback and not draft one because I'm not sold on Shador or Cam.
Cam Ward.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ward better than Shador, but I'm not sold on him for sure yet. He makes too many mistakes. I do like the kid though. If I had to get stuck with one of the two, I prefer him. But I think Darnold definitely should be a starter. I don't think he wants to go to a spot where he might not start, and that could happen in Indianapolis. I mean, you saw what happened the wild card game and the game that mattered against Detroit. He completely disappeared. And can you hold a guy who had a 14-win season to 2 games and say he shouldn't start the next year? That's a hard ask, especially in a league when you look around and there's not 32 quality quarterbacks out there. There's a good 17, 18 that I say, I would definitely start any week.
He could also go to the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be a starter at this point. Do I think he'll produce what he did this year? Never again. I think that was his year. He'll be serviceable.
Yes.
He's not going to be as bad as he was with the Jets. I think he's matured and played better, but he's not going to be the guy that's going to be a savior. He's no Stafford.
This might be like this might be Sam Darnold's Case Keenum year when he was in Minnesota. And the funny part is Keenum actually took the Vikings further than Darnold did.
Yeah. So I mean that's my thoughts on it. But what about Josh Sweat? What do you guys think about him, Jay?
Actually, let's start with the Eagles fan.
Yeah, so Josh Sweat had a phenomenal year, 2.5 sacks, 6 pressures in the Super Bowl, all over Patrick Mahomes. My understanding is that the Eagles are prepared to lose him and Milton Williams in free agency. Defensive linemen are paid a lot of money, especially when they perform the way these guys have. But Howie Roseman today at the Combine in the interviews was saying that signing Zach Bond to a long-term contract, signed him to a 1-year deal from the Saints, had an AP Defensive Player of the Year campaign. But this guy is the priority for the Eagles. I think they're going to try to re-sign him. Draft picks. We know how well this team develops both the offensive line and the defensive line. No matter what, they are always strong at those positions. So there will be some rookies coming in and possibly a signing a little bit cheaper, and they will plug in those holes on the defensive line. But I don't think Josh Sweat or Milton Williams will be back with the Philadelphia Eagles next season.
Jay?
Oh, man. Josh Sweat, he was in year, 7 in Philadelphia. So if he does walk, they'd be losing one of their kind of long-term pieces and everything. Everybody saw what he did in the Super Bowl. He campaigned himself that he should have been most valuable player. And even our very own John Shearer and a few others said, yeah, he had more of an impact than anybody in the game, But at the end of the day, if they do let him walk, you do have the draft coming up, and it's anyone's guess what's going to happen if the Eagles take a pass rusher in the first or second round to maybe replace him and everything, and I don't know. I mean, I'd hate to see the guy leave, but you said that they are prepared to lose him and everything. And it's anybody's guess who needs a pass rusher in Josh Sweat. I think he still has a lot left in the tank, in my opinion. But can the Eagles still continue on a campaign and be the favorites next year? Absolutely. You know, he still got that offense, right? You know, and the defense. I mean, number one overall going into the Super Bowl. You know, so whenever they say something like, "Hey, we're prepared," you know, for him to walk, that means typically they have a contingency plan to replace
Yeah.
the guy either through draft or by free agency. You know, and to basically keep everything rolling as far as being a number one defense.
So I got to agree with both of you. I mean, the Eagles, they're just a machine at this point. They are finding talent, developing talent, and when you look in the NFL, how teams do well, they find good young players because they're cheaper. You develop them, and that's how you can build a good team. Most times, the last few Super Bowls, um, was a phenomenon with the rookie deal quarterbacks that were doing well. Now, when it comes to replacing guys, you got to find people in the drafts. And if you look at the last few drafts, first three rounds, the Eagles have rarely missed. Probably one of the best teams, front offices
Yep.
that's out there. Probably you can argue historically, one of the best. The run that they're having. So, why would you pay a guy who's obviously going to get paid tons of money after the Super Bowl he had, let
Yeah.
alone the rest of the year, but just for the Super Bowl where everyone's watching, he's going to get paid. So, yeah, I think he doesn't stay. Where he ends up, that's anybody's guess, but, you know, good for him
Well,
to be out there to make that money.
I will
All right.
say, and I
Yeah.
don't know what I don't know what all moves Philly's planning on making, but you do have Abdul Carter coming out of Penn State and Michael Williams coming out of Georgia. Michael Williams is number 3 ranked, and the number 1 ranked pass rusher coming out is Abdul Carter. So something to look at.
Yeah, I don't think
And
Abdul
one
Carter
thing
is
we
going to
know
make it
about
down
Georgia,
to the Eagles pick.
no, but the Eagles love those Georgia Bulldogs players: Jalen Carter, Nolan
Yeah.
Smith,
Hmm.
Jordan Davis. They've drafted a lot of defensive linemen from Georgia.
All right. What about T. Higgins, James?
T. Higgins is a interesting case. I really think it depends where he wants to go. I could see him going to somewhere like the Chargers. I think they could add a wide receiver. It's in a place with sunshine, warm weather. I think he's going to end up somewhere like, I think the Chargers would be a good pick. I really want to say New England should be in the mix. I just don't know if a guy like T. Higgins is want to go to somewhere like New England. It's not like it used to be with the Patriots. I think it's a lot harder to convince marquee free agents to go there now.
All right. Jay?
One team I actually was taking a look at, and I guess um, Cincinnati's going to have to, well, not Cincinnati, but I guess people really have to keep their eyes out because Chris Godwin actually is on the list as a free agent. If he leaves Tampa, is there a chance that Tampa lands T. Higgins, another very suitable target for Baker Mayfield? That's what I'm looking at. Cowboys came to mind, but I don't know if Jerry is in his right mind to pull the trigger. Dak could use a solid number 2 outside of opposite CeeDee Lamb. New England as well could very well be in the mix. But you know what? I'm depending on what happens with Chris Godwin. Immediately, what I'm thinking is I'm thinking Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean,
There's actually a
it's been a
lot of
foregone
receivers on the
conclusion.
list.
Yeah, it's been a foregone conclusion, though, that he wasn't staying in Cincinnati. You can't pay everyone. They got Burrow, they got Chase. If you're going to pay Chase or Higgins, who are you going to pay? You're going to pay Chase.
I
Nothing personal
disagree
to
because
Higgins.
I disagree with that because you can find ways to pay everyone. The Eagles are paying Jalen Hurts. They're paying Devontae Smith. They're paying A.J. Brown. They're paying Saquon Barkley. There's ways to do it, but you have to know how to manipulate the cap. You have to know restructure contracts, push money later, convert stuff to signing bonus that creates more money now. So there's ways that the Bengals could sign Jamar and T, but their front office needs to figure it out.
Of course, I don't disagree with you on that, but I don't see it happening. They're not going to learn how to manipulate the cap in, this offseason if they haven't figured it out yet. Probably one of the best teams ever to do that was New England with Tom Brady. Back in the day, Tom made sure he gave up money. They found a way to make sure that they kept winning, and they didn't bring in, everybody. It wasn't where they said, "Oh, I'm going to take, everybody. I'm going to give up everything," but just enough to get one guy here, one guy there, and you could find a way. Last guy, and then we're going to bring in Roth. Zach Braun. James, we'll start with you because another Eagle.
Yeah, Zach Braun was a first-team All-Pro on defense, one of the best linebackers the Eagles have had in recent years. Him and Nakobe Dean, they were great in Vic Fangio's system. So I don't think the Eagles are going to allow him to hit the market. He's too valuable to the defense. I think they're going to re-sign him.
Jay?
Yeah, I think they re-sign him. He's been a stud all season long. I know on paper right now from this conversation, this telecast, it sounds like they're prepared to let Josh Sweat walk and keep Zach Braun. And very well, Braun may be more valuable to the defense in the long term. That may be how they see it. I think they keep him. And in pursuit of another championship, he doesn't take a greedy deal to do so. He just stays in Philly.
Yeah, I'm going to just say simply, I think he stays. They find a way to get it done. I think they go 1 for 2. They lose Sweat. They keep Vaughn. Let's bring in Roth. He's been sitting around waiting, just wondering why James is here. He doesn't look like John. And Denzel certainly doesn't look like Dave. It's very confusing. I know, Roth. It happens. John had too many hurricanes in New Orleans. They're hitting him now. Dave got stuck at the meeting because Dave's just too good. He gives way too much time. What a great man. Can't say enough good things about the guy. But welcome. How you been?
Pretty good. We gotta bring Denzel back. I gotta yell at all three of you guys. I can't. He can't be hiding back there. I want all three of you guys. What's today's date?
February 25th.
February 25th.
Why are we talking NFL free agency? It's February. Dana Tagliafieri just retired. I mean, we have pitchers complaining about the new ABS system in spring training baseball. We have Alex Ovechkin, a 39-year-old skater, come back from broken leg, hit a hat trick the other day. Gonzaga Bulldogs suck in college basketball. Florida was down by 20 today. And we're talking NFL free agency? Come on, jeez. It's because it's the NFL. We don't talk about them 365 days a year. Please. I don't care where T. Higgins is going. I could care, and I don't care about mock drafts. Well, if you're such a good mock draft, what about that one year when everyone had all those great quarterbacks and not even, let's see, Mac Jones? Oh, he number one. Where's he at right now? He's delivering pizzas. I mean, mock drafts are just useless.
Wow.
To be fair, two of the things that you mentioned, you're going to be talking about later anyway in this telecast. So
the only thing, I did some shows today, and I'm not yelling at you guys. I did some other shows today that wanted to talk NFL. The only thing we talk about right now in the NFL is the only thing that's more relevant is Matthew Stafford's wife texting, and that's where he's probably going to go, where she's too busy texting and running his social media. That's the only topic that I want to hear, because I think it's hilarious that his wife pretty much took over his social media and stuff like that. But I could care less about anybody else in the NFL, including Aaron Rodgers and T. Higgins.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because hold that thought.
So
you brought up Matthew Stafford. So does he work out a new deal in LA, or is he going to go for one more run elsewhere? Roth, let's start with you.
I mean, I think the only team that is willing to maybe match what the Rams are probably going to ask is probably Pittsburgh. They got they have the number one picks. They have the pay, and they have a team that could probably win now. He's not going to go to the Raiders. Would you want to go play for the New York Giants or the Tennessee Titans. If you're Matthew Stafford, Pittsburgh. I would say Pittsburgh is probably the only one, but keep an eye out for like maybe other teams like the Vikings if they decide to go other ways. But I would think right now we have the Pittsburgh Steelers as the favorite. And then it's kind of funny because if he leaves, then that makes, I can't believe I'm going to say this guy's name. That means Aaron Rodgers would be rumored to go to LA. It's because he's from California, so they can fill that position with him pretty quickly. But I understand why Matthew Stanford's out there because he's underpaid. If you kind of think about it, all the other quarterbacks are probably getting paid more than him. But geez, tell your lady to get off your social media.
Rough. You make some good points. Matthew Stafford to the Giants. I could never see it. He's too good. We wouldn't have a quarterback that good because I think we're still going to be in lose now mode.
I agree.
I think that they're really going for Manning in my mind. At least I hope. That's my hope. I don't think Stafford stays in LA. I like what you said about Pittsburgh. I think that makes the most sense because he wants to play somewhere where he can win. Shocked to hear about Rodgers though for the Ram job. You would think that anybody would learn after the Jets that Aaron Rodgers does not help your team do anything positive. James, what do you got to say? Oh, get Rob.
But what else would you do if you're the Rams? Who else? You're going to go for Russell Wilson, who's probably going to go to the Raiders because now that him and the head coach are huggy again. Justin Fields. If you're the Rams and Rams and you're looking for a 1-year fix and maybe draft someone, then I would probably take Aaron Rodgers.
What about Sam Darnold?
Probably not.
You get him cheap. They're not going to win this year anyway, so you get him cheap, and then you
get Rodgers
a better draft pick next year.
I was saying you can get Rodgers cheap.
Yeah, but who likes Aaron Rodgers? So what's the deal with the headaches he brings?
Didn't say I had to like him.
Yeah, too many headaches. You get Pat McAfee around, and we got to have the kumbaya moments, and we don't show up to OTAs and practice. What do I need that for? And then we can throw everyone under the bus. Does Sean McVay want to get thrown under the bus?
Why? He's probably only got one more year left. He wanted to retire after the Super Bowl.
Interesting. James?
So where do I think Stafford ends up? I think Pittsburgh makes the most sense probably. They really need a quarterback like Stafford. He still does have some juice in the tank. They have a good team. I think this can actually move the needle a little bit in the AFC North, but with the current situation that they're in, they're not going to compete against the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals if they don't fix the quarterback situation. Russell Wilson is not getting it done. And they're bringing Justin Fields in for the Justin Fields package. It doesn't do anything for them. They need a guy who can run the team, play quarterback at a high level, which Stafford can at least do that for another year or two. So I think the Steelers got to go for it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And all the fire Tomlin people that he doesn't win to the playoffs. If they got Stafford and they didn't win a playoff game, I'll be on your bandwagon because then they'd actually have a good quarterback after Roethlisberger. Because Russell Wilson's past his prime and Fields just isn't ready to do the job. So I don't count him having a good quarterback last year. Duck Dynasty before that, from Roethlisberger till now, no real quarterback. So I'm not going to really hold the guy responsible. But if they got Stafford and didn't win, you'll have me on your side. Roth, we're getting off football. You ready?
February 25th, and it's 8. It's
you're here, Roth.
Right now. It's 9:14.
So Roth, last night, right? Me and my best friend, we were breaking down the bracketology. They had, I think, St. John's as a 3, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
As of last night, and we were looking at it, and we were projecting all the way to the Final Four. That's sick. I haven't done that in forever. Like, never have I ever sat there and said, this team can make the Final Four. I'm confused. I'm a Yankee fan, so I'm used to saying, oh, we're going to win, but not with college basketball. Now, do I think that happens? Something will slip up before they get to that point, but that's exciting. But who's like, if you were going to put money down, who would you pick that's not like the favorite right now to throw out there?
There's a team playing right now, Wisconsin Badgers. I mean, they're not the same Badgers we've seen before. Normally, Badgers play like Hoosier type basketball, pass 4 times, then shoots. They're a little bit more high scoring this year. I think we're gonna see some upsets. I don't think we're gonna see SEC dominance. I'm scared of St. John's. Let's face it, their strength of schedule is not that good. They beat up some bad teams because let's face it, the conference is really weak. The ACC conference is really weak. That's why Duke has looked so dominant. I think some of these teams could go out early because of strength schedule. Sometimes teams like maybe St. Mary's, who are coming off a win at Gonzaga, beating them twice this year. This is the first time the WCC has clinched the #1 seed in February before even conference tournament started. We have Utah State, who's really good. You got Wisconsin. You got a lot of good teams in the Big Ten. Maryland, who has a big game tonight that can shock some people. So yeah, I know everyone wants to hear about the lovely SEC. We're probably going to get 12 teams in, and a great story of St. John's because of the. Let's face it, if it wasn't for Patino being there, would we really be talking about St. John's basketball right now? It's a great story, but I'm just worried about them in their strength of schedule because right now I probably have them going in a Midwest, probably a 3 or 4th seed. And if that's the case, if they're going to the Midwest, they're going to have to battle some Big Ten threes, fours, and fives in that one that can maybe nip them in the butt. And you would figure Houston might be that #1 seed in the Midwest, and they would have to face Houston.
So real quick, Rob, as far as them facing anybody, right? What is what have you taken from anything you've seen from them this year? Because I watch every one of their games or listen to them, so I'm just curious because I do agree they haven't had the toughest schedule.
Well coached. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, they don't have the talent like some of the SEC teams. I mean, they don't turn the ball over. They're a little bit more deep on the bench when needed. I just think it's well coached. I mean, there's a documentary right there that you can watch Al Pacino's halftime speeches and how he. There's some games where they were down double digits in the first half, and they come out and it's a totally different team. So I just think the curve that they have against other two schools is going to be their head coach. I mean, they have good players, but they don't have elite players. They don't have a Cooper Flag, or they don't have players like that on their team. They're just well coached team, and I think that's probably going to be the reason why they can make it to maybe the Elite Eights or even a Final Four. It wouldn't surprise me if they make the Final Four because of their head
Oh,
coach.
last question before I go to James. Um, so the way the top 25 is right now, it's basically the SEC, Duke, St. John's, and Houston. In the top 10, right? So the SEC is going to cannibalize themselves because they play each other. That I actually broke down the schedule because I'm not used to being ranked in the top 10 for so long and this late in the year. So I broke down the schedule. The SEC is going to cannibalize each other. So like if St. John's can get up to like #3, because Duke's going to be fine. They don't play anybody tough the rest of the year. Houston, I think, is be fine. But then the 4 SEC schools ahead of us, I think, play each other or a combination of each other the rest of the way. So with that happening, if St. John's goes up to 3, you think they'll still get a 3 seed?
No, if they go up to 3, no, they'll probably me. The high they'll see will be a 2 seed, and that means they'll have to win their conference play and maybe win all out. I tell people, and me and you've had this discussion in football. Throw away seedings. I don't understand why people love to see that number in front of their team. It just drives me crazy because seedings is the
Everyone's
media.
had it for so long. They've had it
Seedings
for
are
so
like,
long. We have it.
yeah,
We've had it for
yeah.
3 weeks. We need to keep it.
Well, it's
I'd
really
like to keep it
it's
for like 20
relevant in
years.
some sports, but not in college basketball.
It is. I mean, in some aspects, like I mean, I'm sorry. I would have Iowa State and Texas Tech and Wisconsin over St. John's because of their strength of schedule, because of teams they have played. No disrespect to St. John's, you play what's in front of you. You play with your conference. But I'm sorry, Big Ten and stuff like that. Their conference is much better, but their name of St. John's and their head coach is probably giving them a little bit more love, just like in football, in college football. The SEC is getting so much love. That's why, they have look at SEC. They got 20 teams in the top 20. Well, yeah, because we have to watch on ESPN and talk about them 24 hours a day of SEC football. I just tell people, just be careful with those seedings because Hey, that's why the lights in the sports books are on all the time because people bet with the numbers in front of their team. They don't actually do the homework and why maybe that number's there.
So you're saying right now you're kind of sleepers Wisconsin and
I mean, if you're looking at the top
Houston. I heard.
25, I mean, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Wisconsin, those 8, 9, and 10s can be sneaky outs. I think Missouri and Maryland can be a sneaky team, but don't sleep on those other ones. That's BYU, who are coming up. They blew out Kansas. Then they had to run on the road and beat Arizona this weekend. I mean, I was intrigued watching them beat Arizona. That I bought a white shirt and a bicycle helmet and put it on while I was cheering for them to beat Arizona. So they're going to be a sneaky out. And then, of course, St. Mary's is a sneaky one.
So just real quick, just an update since we're talking about top teams. Georgia is up 3 over Florida with 6 seconds left.
Wow, up by
That
3.
would be
They're down by
shocking.
20.
Was it a
Wow.
20-point lead?
Yeah,
they were. You're right. It
down by
was
20. Yeah.
It was 16 at the half. Wow. I'm just shocked that they have a lead this late in the game. That would be a huge upset because Georgia tailed off big time.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I did a
James,
show this morning. And some guy in the had he goes, Florida was his sneaky perp team to win it all. So I wonder what he's feeling right now.
I don't mind losing a game this part of the year.
No,
I mean, I think that refocuses you. I think, for example, St. John's. I know them better than any other college team. They lost to Villanova. Look what they did after that. They blew out DePaul, and then a game against UConn, which is, a rivalry game. Granted, it's not last year's UConn team. They went out and destroyed them. And again, they were
us
getting
three guys
beat.
could have beat DePaul. Don't just say you beat DePaul. I mean, Mark McGuire's not
Oh.
coming out of that gym
I
anytime. So
understand,
us
but
three could
like
beat
you said,
DePaul.
you got to play. You got to play who's there. But they followed that up by doing the same thing against UConn, which was impressive. James, what's your thoughts right now on college basketball and March Madness?
Yeah, I think another team that we should also mention is Michigan State.
Yes, they're so big.
You talk about the Big Ten being battle tested. Big win against Michigan the other day as well. I think coaching is also something very important. Tom Izzo's been here since 1995, has had a lot of success. So there's somebody that you can count on and depend on to be prepared for this stage. I think Izzo's one of the guys that you got to bring up. So I really like this Michigan State team too.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
That's a good choice. And Izzo, great coach. Patino-like mold. Where he's been there a long time, knows what he's doing. Top of the line coach, without a doubt. It's interesting. There are a lot of good teams. It's shocking to me that the SEC is, so good this year. And I don't know if anyone saw it. If either of you guys saw it this week with the announcer who was shocked that the conference records were 500 with the teams playing each other in the same conference.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, on one of the telecasts, he couldn't believe that I think it was the SEC, that their record against each other was like 72-72 or something like that. And it was like a big joke online. Should look it up. It was pretty funny. Every conference is 500 because somebody wins and loses. It's just the way it is. But wild, Florida's about to lose to Georgia. That's amazing. I would not have seen that coming 3 hours ago.
That could put Georgia into the tournament, and that would give them 13 teams because they were one of the bubble teams that could be looking in.
And you know who that helps, Raphael? St. John's, because St. John's lost to Georgia. So it makes us look better. It doesn't really, I don't count it as anything, but to the committee, that's what they look at these
St.
stupid
John's
things.
is going to lose the high point on opening weekend.
God forbid. But speaking of things that probably no one ever saw coming, this guy from Russia, Alexander Ovechkin, he's 13 goals away from Gretzky's all-time goal record. I mean, first of all, is he going to do it this season? Ralph, do you have odds on when the record's going to be broken? I had asked you that in the chat. You never
we took
responded.
those
I know you're
down
busy.
because he breaks it this. I mean, he breaks it this year. I mean, every chance that they're gonna power plays, they're gonna put him in, just for he can break it this year. And I said this to a show yesterday. I mean, I know hockey is probably the fifth least watched sport here in the States. It always goes football, NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, baseball, and then it's hockey. But with the Four Nations Championship game between Canada and USA, it was the biggest hockey game watched in TV history here in the States. It had more betting action than every NBA game that played that game, and had more betting action than almost 80% of the Thursday night football games in the NFL produces this year. So, and then you have a guy that's 39 years old the week afterward that does a hat trick coming off a broken leg, who's 39 years old, and Alexander Ovechkin. These are the stories that were missed because of. I mean, I when I used to do a lot of stuff in Europe, when I would do the English Premier League soccer, I would tell them these you're missing great cricket stories and great other stories, because they talk Premier League soccer 24 hours a day, just like we
As they
talk
should.
NFL 24 hours a day. But sometimes you miss great stories because you're talking about a sport that's not playing for 6 months. I mean, I saw shows that weren't even talking about the USA Canada championship game in the Four Nations. That was one of the best hockey games I watched in a very, very, very long time. It was, I mean, the hitting, I mean, it was just a great, great game. But I'm excited. I mean, it got me pumped to watch more hockey this year, and stuff like that. So the Four Nations got me pumped, because it was really, really, really good hockey, and it made the NFL Pro Bowl and the NBA All Star game look like a freaking joke.
As it
All
should,
right,
because they are a joke.
James. So
Yeah.
So tell us your thoughts on Ovechkin.
I think what he's doing is phenomenal. I think that with the amount of games that's left, about 23, 24 games, it could be tough, but get him in the box, and he's going to have a chance to break the record. So he might get it, he might not, but it's still very impressive.
And he scored tonight too.
Did he? So
Okay.
Yeah,
12 goals.
12.
12.
They're losing
Listen,
2-1
I
at
mean-
home, but they scored.
Listen, Ovechkin is, a huge, huge star. I think he gets the record this year. He's just an impressive guy. It's just a shame that all those years Washington was really good, and they couldn't get over the hump for a while, because they should have had a bunch more Stanley Cups. They just couldn't get it done. They fell and they faltered, but
I'm just happy he
this
has
is
one. I'm
Yeah.
just happy he has
I
one,
mean-
because I mean, look at
Yeah.
the NFL. Dan Marino has no Super Bowls. I mean, there's so many. Charles Barkley has no rings. It's just sometimes you're just a great player that have 0 rings. I'm just happy he has one.
Without a doubt. I mean, he's done he got the one, which is phenomenal. And I mean, this is an amazing record. I mean, when you think that you're going to get a record from Wayne Gretzky, there's guys that when you break a record and you say, "Oh, I got a record," but was whoever. But this is Wayne Gretzky, one of the best hockey players of all time. Could you put Ovechkin in that category now? Is he there as one of the top, goal scorers in history?
Oh yeah, I mean, but I remember when Cal Ripken broke his streak and stuff, that he's running around in Baltimore. People were comparing the Wayne Gretzky goal to what he did, and now Gretzky's break. I mean, I don't think anyone beats Cal Ripken's record, but I just remember them talking on Baseball Tonight, saying that record was as equal to Wayne Gretzky's scoring record, and then we're going to witness that getting broken.
Yeah, I mean, James, where do you put Ovechkin as far as top hockey players of all time?
If I think about it, if he puts Wayne Gretzky's record behind him, Wayne Gretzky is number one to some people. So anytime you're in this company, it's very unique. So he will be in that conversation.
That's definitely fair. I
don't
can't
think
disagree.
he's one. Gretzky's one. Gretzky's always going to be one.
I mean, there are people
Right,
that
even if he's going to be one,
Bobby Orr.
but even if he's going to be one, just knowing that you're the guy that broke his record, that by itself elevates you.
Agree.
There are people that say Bobby Orr though could be number one.
He's
I don't
up
know. I
there.
never saw him play. I would say, it's just like baseball. You got Mays, Aaron, Ruth, and one day Otani, if he continues to do what he's doing, you're going to have that conversation. You're probably never going to be wrong if you pick one, but you could argue that any of those guys could be number one. So either way, it's phenomenal. All right, so a couple of things before we go. Raf, I'm heading to Japan to see the opening day game. We're not going to both games because I like to actually see Japan. It's millions of miles away. But, what are the odds that the Cubs actually pull out a couple of games in Japan and beat the Dodgers?
I mean, they're playing the Dodgers, but it's spring training, so you're not going to see everyone's best on there. You'll probably see everyone's best maybe the first 2-3 innings, and then you're going to see guys that don't even have names on their back of their jerseys. They just have
Oh no, it's
a
regular.
number.
It's a regular season game.
Is
These
it regular
count.
season game?
Yeah, they do the Japan series as counts for the regular season, and then they go back to spring training for like a week. It's really weird.
I think the Cubs have a shot with their starting pitching on game one, but I think game two is going to be probably a little bit limited. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Cubs do at first base and third base. Are they going to let the young kid play third and have Justin Turner either DH or go back and forth with Michael Bush at first base? So it's going to be very interesting to see if they're going to let this young pup play third base in a foreign country. As here you go. It's gonna be very. I think the Cubs can win game one, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just one game. You still have to play 160 plus games.
Flying how many thousands of miles? Let them win one game, and then whatever happens. And then I'm going out to Dave's tournament in April, and they play the Dodgers the following weekend. So I'm going to stay out in LA for the week, and I'm going to see the Cubs in Dodger Stadium. And maybe I'll go to Wrigley this year, but at least I'll have seen them, overseas and in LA. So I'm good.
Last time I went to Dodgers to see the Cubs play, when I saw Jake Arrieta throw his his no hitter.
I've never seen a no hitter. I was supposed to go to Doc Gooden's no hitter at Yankee Stadium, and I was sick, so I couldn't go. And that was the only one I was supposed to go to. It still kills me to this day. It's something you don't get a chance to see every day. James, what was the biggest sporting event you ever went to?
Biggest sporting event I ever went to?
Yeah.
Probably some Eagles game. I've been to a lot of Eagles games.
It must not be memorable if you say probably a Eagles game.
I've been to so many that I don't know. I think when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, opening night, seeing them put their first Super Bowl banner, that was really like an awesome experience.
I was at Steve Bartman's game. I mean, that's like I've been to like memorable games.
Wow. That must have been wild. That was at the Jeffrey Mayer game. That was fun. But that helped the home team. Bartman did not help the home team, so that must have been a trip to be at.
I cried in the bleachers after me and my buddy Aaron Funk. We were just sitting there probably an hour after the game because I knew they were going to get crushed. And even though Kerry Wood was pitching the next game, it was over. I mean, they weren't going to come back. It's just like the Bears when Washington took the soul out of the Bears this year. The Florida Marlins took the soul out of the Cubs when the Steve Bartman play.
It happens. Sometimes you can just feel it, but that's all the time we have for tonight. Guys, send in an email to John to get well soon, because I don't know, hurricanes, grenades. I don't know what he was drinking. Just way too much. Right? Dave, I'm sure, will be back next week. Dave, like I said, always giving. He's at a board meeting. Great guy. Raf, of course, thanks for being here. James, always a pleasure having you fill in. I feel like we're in great hands when you're here.
Love
Jay,
James.
Good
James
job
needs
in
to
the
be on there
background. Right? That's why, John and Dave can take more weeks off. We got James. We're good. Jay, are you going to do our Dave to get out of here? He's not even here.
Be better human.
I'm here. Now is my moment to shine. Shout out to Dave DeRocher. QB2 is going to handle this one this week. Ho, ho, ho! Be good humans. We'll see you next week.